Okay, so this is to go through the multiple choice questions for the standard level biology exam, November 2022. So, question 1. A cell contains chloroplast, a plasma membrane, and 80 S ribosomes. What type of cell could it be? So the first thing to think is, what are the key points? So chloroplast, so that's a double membrane bound organelle that indicates eukaryote. 80 S ribosomes, that indicates eukaryote. So you're now looking at these to try and identify eukaryotic cells. So we can cross out C, a prokaryote, straight away. Now, that leaves us with a neuron, a pancreatic exocrine gland cell, and a palisade mesophyll cell as all eukaryotic cells. But it says chloroplasts, which are only found in plant cells, so therefore the answer has to be A. So then, question number 2, which cell component arose first during the formation of the earlier cells? If you think about the cells, so what is needed to kind of keep a cell all together? Well, that's going to be B, the plasma membrane. So question number 3, the Pasteur experiment. So he used swan neck flasks and nutrient broth to demonstrate that spontaneous generation of organisms does not occur on Earth. Some students performed a similar experiment using 2 swan neck flasks, one containing broth which had been previously boiled and another containing broth which had not been boiled. So the flasks were left in the school laboratory and observed after 1 week. What is the evidence against the spontaneous generation theory? So microorganisms in flask F died due to high temperatures. Well, that's not that is true. It's a true statement, but it doesn't say anything about spontaneous generation. No microorganisms grew in either flask is not going to be a true statement. Microorganisms grew in flask G. That's a true statement, but doesn't tell us anything about spontaneous generation. And D, no microorganisms grew in flask F, but many grew in flask G, and that is the correct statement because that shows the difference between the two flasks. Question 4. So cisplatin is an anti-cancer drug that prevents tumor cells from dividing by mitosis as it inhibits cell processes at stage S of interphase. How does cisplatin prevent cancer cells from dividing? So stage S is DNA replication. So what are we looking for? We're looking for A. It inhibits the replication of DNA. Okay, question number 5. The graph shows the mitotic index of roots of lentil plants at different distances from the end of the root. So looking at this graph, we can see that the further you move from the end of the root, the lower the mitotic index, which is what we would expect. And so then we're trying to find the correct statement. So as the distance from the root increases, more cells are undergoing mitosis. That's an incorrect statement. At 0.5 millimeters from the end of the root, most of the cells are in prophase. We can't tell that from the graph. There are fewer cells observed at 1.5 millimeters than at 0.5 millimeters. We can't tell that from the graph. And as the distance from the end of the root increases, the percentage of cells in interphase increases, which is our correct answer. Because if they're not dividing, then they're in interphase. And down here, as we go further away from the end of the root, we've got fewer cells dividing because the mitotic index is lower. Okay, so what is the function performed by the part of the cell shown in the electron micrograph? So this is rough endoplasmic reticulum. You can tell it's rough because of these ribosomes all over it, and the function of rough endoplasmic reticulum is B, the synthesis of proteins. Okay, question 7. Mammals, birds, and reptiles have an embryonic tail that may disappear during development. What is the most likely explanation? So because they're mammals, birds, and reptiles, so they're all vertebrates. So mammals have lost their tail by evolution. Well, that's not what that's saying. All vertebrates have a common ancestor. Yes, mammal, birds, and reptiles are identical when they're embryos. That's not what they're saying. Some physical similarities of vertebrates are analogous. That's not what it's saying. So the answer is B. Sometimes you have to sort of use elimination to deduce multiple choice questions. So then number 8, humans have been improving crop species for thousands of years by crossbreeding plants with desirable characteristics. The photograph shows changes in dry cobs of corn over 10,000 years. So what is the name of the process that was used to produce modern corn? So that is A, selective breeding. A, selective breeding. Okay, question 9. What could be used as evidence for evolution? Well, selective breeding of domesticated animals, yes. The fossil record, yes. Homologous structures, yes. So we're looking for 1, 2, and 3, which is D. Which structures are parts of the walls of both capillaries and veins? So capillaries and veins, so they definitely both have cells. They don't both have pores, that's just capillaries. They don't both have elastic fibres, that's just veins. So the answer is A, number 1 only. Question 11. A cell from the lungs observed under microscope contains a large number of secretory organelles. What conclusion can be drawn about the cell? So what's the part of the lung which secretes stuff? Well, that's those cuboidal type 2 pneumocytes, so the answer is B. And question 12, pressure changes inside the thorax cause the movement of air in and out of the lung alveoli during ventilation. Alveolar pressure correlates to thoracic pressure. The diagram shows the pressure changes in the lung alveoli during ventilation in relation to normal atmospheric pressure. What causes the forced movement of air out of the lungs at T? Okay, so in many ways this graph is kind of irrelevant. It's asking what causes the forced movement of air out of the lungs. So when we're talking about exhalation, we're talking about the internal intercostal muscles contracting. So we can immediately remove A and we can remove D. And then it's, what's the other one? So it's the abdominal muscles contract during an exhalation. So the answer then is B.